Hey everyone, it is Jay Selloff from Investors Alley, and this is our options trade of the week. We are at Market Chameleon looking at the unusual options page. Real quick, this is not a trade recommendation from one of my services. This is a trade for educational purposes only. So, relatively, say not that active a day for options. I mean, 250,000 being the top volume is not a ton, although it's a lot, particularly for some of these stocks that don't necessarily trade that many options, but we've definitely seen busier days. Regardless, there's some interesting stuff in here, and I'm going to something that we all know about, SBUX. And as you can see, it was down about 4% today, but most of the action was in the call side, about 61%, tends to be more bullish. Thought it was interesting. SBUX doesn't tend to be in the unusual option list all that often, so thought we might take a look. So, actually, before we look at the trades, here's the chart. You can see kind of a big down day today for SBUX, which is not a super volatile stock. So, what's going on? Well, it was the IPO day of Bros, Dutch Brothers, a SBUX competitor here on the West Coast. It did IPO, and it's potentially something where there was a sell SBUX, buy Dutch Brothers sort of spread going on. We'll see what happens tomorrow, but I have not seen any SBUX specific news today. That may change by the time you see this video. Maybe something will have come out, but that's the best guess that I have at this moment. Now, looking at the trades, not a ton of action here, but I would say it's mostly and these things are not really indicative of anything. So looking at some of this other stuff, I would say it's more bullish than not. We can skip the September 17th stuff for the most part because that all expires this week, and that's just sort of position management. So something like this is maybe useful. A couple pretty big, well, in terms of everything else that's happened today, not a ton of volume, but nearly 900 or a little over 900 of these 100 puts being sold. That's a generally a bullish sign. It's selling at 100, so someone thinks it's most likely going to stick above 100. Some call, again, you can skip the 17s. Call buying at the 120 strike for October. Well, this looks like a rollout trade. So someone closed their October and sold the 120s in December. Now, while that is saying that potentially maybe it's not going to go above 120 by December, that may not be the goal. But let's just say that's still bullish. If the stock is at 113 and you're worried about it going down, you wouldn't necessarily do that trade. So mostly this looks like a lot of call buy. Again, the September 17th stuff is a little hard to say, but overall I would say tends to be a little bit more bullish. It doesn't look like people are worried about a continued sell-off, so this might be just a short-term blip. Options seem to be saying that is the case, so that's one way you can kind of get a sentiment on something and make a decision. Looking at the options chain, options aren't too expensive, so if you wanted to, let's say, you think this is going to bounce back, 115 calls, about 245, not too expensive for something like that. So if you go to a different expiration, you can get more strikes here. So let's say the 117 calls are 127. So there's different ways to do this if you think it might bounce back, but kind of interesting to see what's going on with the action and see if it has to do with that Dutch Brothers IPO. There is this sort of trading that happens in my service, Option 4 Trader Pro. There should be a link on this page where it's all about buying calls and puts. If you're interested in getting a start in that, then take a look. Otherwise, I will see you all next week for the next trade of the week.